Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second season of Behind Your Eyes. For episode 4, my guest is Liz. So, hi, Liz. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, hi, my name is Dr. Liz DuBois. I am an executive coach with a background in conflict resolution and sociology, focus on trauma, and I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, I always start with the question, a sincere, how are you doing?
A sincere, how am I doing? It's funny. I do EFT, which is just emotional freedom technique, tapping. For those of you that are familiar, I do EFT on myself every
Mhm.
probably 3 or 4 times a week. And this morning was just woke up really stressed and just having some conflict within my family and a lot of stuff that I have no control over, which
Mm.
really drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And so so woke up a little stressed and did some tapping and did some meditation, did some prayer
Mhm.
time, and now I'm feeling much better.
That's good that you figured out, your triggers and how you can, lower your stress. And that's already quite yeah, it must have been a long journey to find that out.
Yeah, yes, I think so. I think it's been a real progression of
Mhm.
different things that I've learned. I got into a meditative practice when I was 22. I'm almost 39. Oh, geez.
I'm
Uh,
40, so no worries.
yeah, no, it's less than almost 40 and more. Just felt like, wow, I've been doing this a while. So I got into meditation when I was 22, and then when I was 24, someone handed me a copy of The Law of Attraction by Esther Hicks. And it just kind of created I don't know, quest is too strong a word, but it became something that I diligently pursued an understanding of,
Mhm. Yeah.
and continue to do so.
Mhm.
So I spend a fair amount of time in my day meditating, grounding in, talking to the universe, asking my highest self,
Mhm.
what's the next move? I'm in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And so
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that I do on a daily basis to keep myself really grounded in a life where I don't need to use drugs and alcohol in order to
Mm.
feel
Wow.
okay.
Yeah. But that's not something to brush off very quickly. So how did that healing journey for you go?
hmm it started, I want to say senior year of college. I had a job that I really liked. It was a job on campus with two women that I really continue to admire quite a bit. But at functions, alcohol was a part of it, drinking
Mm.
wine, especially. And this was kind of the heyday of Sex in the City, where there was a culture that, to have a cosmopolitan in your hand at a party
Mhm.
felt like the epitome of being a grown up. And I was,
Yeah. Yeah.
21, 22. And it just started to kind of get out of hand. And my mom's mom, so my maternal grandmother, had died when she was early 40s.
Mm.
And my mom was either 20 or 21. And I just knew that we had this strong family history, and I was
Mhm.
not super interested in dying of liver cirrhosis in my 40s. So I stopped drinking, and it through a process of getting into therapy and working through kind of what will these two bosses think of me if I don't drink
Mm.
anymore. It was
Oh, yeah.
kind of my first entree into codependency work around someone else will think less of me if I don't do this thing that is harming me.
Mm. Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
crazy how we get these thoughts that are harming us just because we care about what others think of us.
Yeah, and I think that it's less that it's crazy, right? And when
Mhm.
we can think about our biology, it gives us permission to step out of this kind of like, oh, I'm crazy for thinking this way.
Mm.
We are wired to be pack animals
You're right.
because, hunting hunting woolly mammoths is hard to do by yourself.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
it's safer in a pack.
it's safer in a pack, right? And
Yeah.
so biologically, our neural circuitry believes strongly that if we get ejected from the pack, we will die, uh,
Hmm.
because that was true
Yeah.
when we were first evolving. And so now, when we have kind of these patterns of behavior where we're engaging in behavior that doesn't help us, I think it's really useful for us to stop in our tracks and say, you know, I'm not crazy right now. So where is it that I feel like I'm not going to be safe if I
Yeah,
stop doing this thing that's harming
right.
me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because I'm reading a book now that's about negative patterns and how you can recognize them and say, okay, wait, how is this actually serving me? Because I'm keep doing it and thinking it and feeling it, but how is this actually serving me? What am I needing here? So there's still a need in you to,
Mhm.
yeah, that needs to be fed, so to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I'm in the coaching industry, which I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of toxic dumpster fires of kind of limiting beliefs
Hmm.
and transcending into our higher selves and spirituality and all of those things are absolutely fine.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that there can be this real abdication, well, I should say, a real ignoring of the fact
Hmm.
that some of these are actual biological needs, right? That this
Right.
is not just, you know, I have a limiting belief that I, you
Yeah.
know, I'm not good enough on my own. It's like, well, you have neural circuitry that is programmed to believe that you need to be
Right.
in
Yeah.
community with other
It goes a
people.
lot deeper than just, oh, I have a negative thought, I need to replace it with a positive one.
Absolutely. I think that that is like outright gaslighting of
Yeah.
ourselves. And it doesn't work, I think, is the bigger thing. So I can
Yeah.
sit here and have moral condemnations and just like critical thinking as a
Hmm.
practitioner. But more than that, it doesn't help us, right? And so when people
Right.
come to me and they say, you know, I'm really trying to shift these limiting beliefs. I, you know that I'm engaging in behavior that is keeping me small. I always
Hmm.
start with, well, what happened in childhood that led you to believe that you weren't
Right.
safe on your own?
Right. Exactly. That's the key point. You have to start at, you have to really like pull back all the layers,
Yeah,
because something is causing that behavior and that belief system. It comes from somewhere, and usually, like 9 out of 10 times, it comes from early childhood.
yeah, absolutely. Who, you know, the Jesuits have a saying, you know, um, like, give us a boy until he's 7 and we'll show you the man. Something like I'm
Hmm.
garbling it, right? But our subconscious is formed between the years of 0 to 7,
Hmm.
primarily. And so when we think about those kind of formative years, when we look towards later patterns of behavior in
Oh
adult
yeah.
life,
Hmm.
those are the years that we want to go to and say, okay,
Yeah.
what happened here that
Hmm.
we can see evidence of here in the present as an adult that we can
Exactly.
start to address and make feel safe.
Yeah. It's like the question is not like, was what happened to you exactly, like what happened in those early years that causes you to act the way you do now and think the way you do now.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that therein lies liberation, not
Hmm.
kind of like I'm always going to be stuck because I'm a product of my environment.
Hmm.
It's because I'm aware of what happened in
Yeah.
my environment while I was kind of this sponge, you know, soaking up what it means
Hmm.
to be a human. Because I'm aware of those things, when I see patterns that replicate those early patterns of behavior, I have tools available to
Hmm.
help me shift those behaviors.
Oh yeah. Awareness is where it all starts, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. And I read on a page of your podcast a quote that says, "As women, we're taught to believe that our worth is in direct proportion to whether or not we're acceptable to others." I would love
Yes.
to, yeah, hear more about that. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you know, I think I don't know how far I'm like feminist theory says the
Mhm.
male gaze, right? But like let's keep it real, real kind of, you know, base level.
Mhm.
When we are just like swimming in the social waters, right?
Mhm.
We're exposed to all sorts of messages about
Mhm.
what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a girl. You
Mhm.
know, we're that old what is it? The poem. I don't know if you have this in the Netherlands. We have this poem that says girls are sugar and spice and everything nice.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so we're everything nice. We're these quiet, polite, docile little creatures.
Yeah.
And we see this in sociological research where academics go into different settings in early schools, and they see, you know, the little boys running around and the kids, you know, boys will be boys, or they have ADHD and we need to medicate them. Like, this isn't, you know, this is either completely fine because of their sex and their gender, you know, can construe it as you will at that early age. This is normal behavior for a boy. And they're acting out, but there's kind of a like wink wink nudge nudge, like, well, you know, boys will be boys.
Right.
And I see this with my own son. I have an 8-year-old boy, right? And he's a little Tyrannosaurus. Not so much anymore, but right when he was like 2-year-old, 3-year-old preschool, like it was it was rough. And then little girls get rewarded for their good behavior, right? They
Yeah.
have a different capacity than little boys to sit quietly, to be
Yeah.
less engaged in these kind of like gross motor skills 24/7, where they're just
Yeah.
running around. And so they get this behavior reinforced through
Yeah.
positive affirmation, where look at little Susie, she's sitting so quietly, can everybody be more like little Susie, right? And
Yeah.
in that moment, little Susie is getting a dopamine hit in her brain. Like her brain is going, it feels good
Yeah.
to have this kind of positive attention, so I'm going to seek it more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, you're like rewarded because well, you don't really have an opinion of your own, and yeah, be quiet and just listen to others, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, you're soft and pliable, and
Yeah.
you know, you go along to get along, and you're a good little helper, right? And we see this replicated in all sorts of cultural settings.
Yeah.
You know, there's Bible verses about, you know, being a helpmate, and you know, supporting the male partner, and you know, like all sorts of different ways that women have been used throughout history
Yeah.
to make males' lives easier, to make society run more smoothly without, you know, too many questions being asked, to make, you know, sexual, you know, urge to make sex available to men.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways that women are socialized that give them the impression that the most important thing in their life is to be acceptable to other people.
Yeah, to men especially.
To men especially, right? You
Yeah.
know, and we see this, I think, specifically really easily in diet culture, where you know, the thinner you are, the more worthy you are. And I rode that train for a long time. I was very heavy. Well, I don't even know. It was like a size 18, 20 in college. I don't know if that's very heavy or not. And then I got quite slim. I was a size 4. I got down to about 148 pounds, and I'm almost 6 feet tall. So it's really quite slim. And you know, my hair was falling out. I wasn't getting a period. But I thought, oh, I've made it, right? I'm thin. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, why is it so important, like especially now for women to stop playing it small?
Why is it important for women to stop playing it small? Well, I think a lot of this gets tied into capitalism and into kind of maintaining power structures writ large, right? When we think about, again, I'm going to use the diet industry, just because it's a pretty easy example where we can see this tangibly.
Yeah.
You know, who benefits from women feeling like shit about themselves, right? Oh, my thighs are too big, you know, my breasts are too saggy, my chin is too droopy, you know, whatever, my butt is not firm enough. We have all of these different messages that we pick up in so many different areas, and including our own family, right? These are narratives that get passed down. And then when we think about like who it's actually benefiting, right? There's multi-billion-dollar industries that are built off women hating their bodies, right? Like micro sculpting and like all sorts of stuff, you know, like all sorts of stuff that is available.
Surgery. Oh. That's
Yeah, surgery, and I'm not saying that any of these things are wrong.
mhm,
I'm part of a health, initiative called Calibrate. It's a weight loss,
mhm,
um, I don't know, program, I guess.
mhm,
That's around healthy eating and preventing diabetes because I'm a little bit overweight in a way that
mhm,
makes me nervous, and my father has diabetes.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, but that's more a health situation, of course, not like oh, I want to look perfect for others, but I want to feel healthy and good for me.
Yeah, but I do want to emphasize, like, if your goal in having, the pursuit of a thin body is simply because you want one, if you
Hmm.
want to be a size 2 with
Yeah,
boobs that you
yeah,
have done at a plastic surgeon, like, I celebrate you, I applaud
of
you.
course. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and all of these things don't come from nowhere, right? This isn't
No.
like you wake up one day and you're like, I need to, for me, like, I need to lose 50 pounds in order to feel more confident that I'm
Mhm.
not going to get diabetes. Like, maybe I will, maybe I won't get diabetes,
Yeah.
like research is a little unclear as to like what exactly causes this. And
Mhm.
so it's a crapshoot, but I'm going with the best information at hand. And I think that everyone is doing that to some extent,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And there's some truth to it, right? Like, I've been in straight commission sales jobs more often than not since I was 22. I've had some sort of element in my job that's been associated with either selling things or raising money. And the year that I finished losing, I lost 104 pounds over the span of about 18 months when I was in my 20s. And I went from making $50,000 a year to $72,000 a year in
Wow.
1 year. And it wasn't because someone came and gave me a raise. It was because more people were buying from me because I had a credible body size.
Yeah.
I was a size 4 instead of a size 20, and
Yeah.
people responded to that differently.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's wow. That's insane when you think of that. That you make more money because you portray a certain image to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think when women are on a mission to feel better about themselves,
Hmm.
it's really important, and we aren't like, oh, I'm crazy for thinking that I
Hmm.
need to do this, and I'm buying into a limiting belief. Like, yeah, but the belief isn't coming from your crazy brain. The belief
Yeah.
is coming from the fact that our society is really fucked up.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder what needs to be changed or how it can be shifted. We had, of course, the Me Too situation, and I was hoping, that would shift it all, but I'm not sure if that is actually happening.
I think that it's very difficult to,
Mhm.
I think society is like a rubber band, right?
Mhm.
And we can stretch it really far, but then it's gonna snap back.
Yeah.
Um, we have, so I think about where I live. I live in Maryland, and our judicial body, our legislative body, was established in the 1600s.
Mhm.
200 years before, or what, 100 years before the US itself was established, right?
Mhm.
And Harriet Tubman was born on the plantation where she was born on and escaped from, 15 minutes from my house. My son and I are going there this Friday, actually. When I think about the roots of this state that I live in, just like this
Mhm.
one little place, I was about to say island, and that's true. I live on a little
Mhm.
island. Um, when I think about the cultural roots of this space that I live in, this
Yeah.
just tiny little example in the world, um, it doesn't have a lot to do with what happens in an individual moment.
Mhm.
We're fighting uphill against 400 years
Yeah.
of, I mean, 4 centuries
Yeah.
of the way things are, quote
Mhm.
unquote. So
Yeah.
whether that's to do with race relations or the way that women are portrayed and treated, or how capitalism works, or how taxes
Mhm.
fund different things, right? Businesses versus schools. We're not dealing with, let's all just make more positive thought choices.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, there's an undertow, right? History has an
Yeah.
undertow.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of um gentleness with
Mhm.
oneself,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I have come to a place of somewhat nihilistic pessimism, where I'm like, shit, I don't know if things will change or not. So for me, I used to be in kind of legislative advocacy. I ran ran a nonprofit, and then was recruited to run a different nonprofit early in my 30s. And I really believed in the power of public policy to change things. And I was, so gung-ho and so all in. And, these policies and political activism are going to be the thing that changes everything. I think that there's some truth to that. But as a practitioner, like, I'm in a place of just like, it is my job in this moment in my life to heal hearts. And to inspire, for those hearts to then in turn be inspired to do whatever it is that they're here to do. So I think that when we're looking at, kind of using Me Too as an example, like, did anything actually change? Change is incremental when we're talking about societal level, but when we think about transforming our own hearts and what we're able to do in the world and who we're able to serve, like, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. And how important do you think your mindset is in healing?
I don't love the word mindset, because I think it becomes this kind of like black box concept, right? Where it's like, this is your mindset. So let's unpack that a little bit. The way that you see yourself and the way that you see your capacity to be a force in the world, for good or bad, right? So how you see yourself, how you see the potential of your influence, and what you believe your purpose is on this planet, those three things influence whether or not you stay in bed every day crying and eating raw cookie dough out of a sleeve, or whether you get up and you do something really positive for the world.
Yeah. And self-talk, I think, is also like how you talk to yourself and about yourself to others is also essential how you carry yourself.
Yeah, my first move when I am rattled in some way, whether it's like a real big upset or just kind of a like small feeling of tension, my first move is I place my hand on my heart, kind of under my shirt, so it's skin to skin, and I just start breathing deeply and talking nicely to myself. I believe in you, I trust you, I've got your back. The things that you've chosen along the way were the best choices you had in the moment that you made them. And just really reassuring myself that, that I am good and that I am going to be okay. Because I think we start to go down the toilet with ourselves and kind of our mindset, quote unquote, when we get into this idea that in order for me to learn a lesson from my past, I have to beat myself up right now.
Okay. And is that also like one of your favorite like techniques of self-care, handle your heart, or do you have other ways to do that?
Yeah, of course. So there's a couple. One, hand on our heart and deep breathing while we say nice things out loud to ourselves. You can do this in the car. It's great to do this in the car when you're by yourself, or do it with a friend. Whatever floats your boat. I do it by myself. So that's my most immediate tool. At any place that you're in, I don't care if you're on a cruise in the Caribbean. I did this on a cruise in the Caribbean, right? You can excuse yourself and go to the bathroom and just talk nicely to yourself. So that's the most low-hanging fruit. And then I really like what I call mirror work, which is talking to yourself in the mirror really kindly, making eye-to-eye contact with yourself. I do this sitting on the floor in my bedroom. I've got a floor-length mirror, and I just talk nicely to myself. And I say, I give you permission to live your life. I do this a lot when I'm taking on new clients. I give you permission to take on new clients. I give you permission to sell things. I give you permission to parent in the way that you want to parent. I give you permission to pay off your car, right? Whatever it is. I give you permission to live the way that you want to live. And I trust you to do that work.
Yeah, to be your authentic self.
Yeah. And then EFT, I think, is super powerful, tapping. So there's resources online. You can just go on YouTube and search tapping. And you will find great resources.
Yeah.
And that's a really low hanging fruit. And then meditation. I just
Yeah.
turn on, I just on YouTube will search meditation music and then turn it on, and just sit there quietly, like,
Yeah.
just sit quietly.
Yeah. Like empty the mind a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Meditation is also one of my favorite things. It relaxes me to my core, and so I love it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
what is something that you are most proud of, both personally and in your work?
Okay. Personally, I'm proud of my son. Um, I did not, I was not naturally inclined to be a mom, but I knew I really wanted a baby, and was lucky enough that I was able to get pregnant and carry this baby to term. I had another very wanted baby that I was not able to carry to term. I
Mm,
lost. And I just, I am not the Pinterest mom. I am not the perfect PTA mom and any of that. But I love my kids so much. And I think it was really hard for me at the beginning. And if someone does listen to my podcast, it's just called Small No More.
mhm,
The first episode talks about mothering in a different way, and this kind of like cult of motherhood of you have to want to stay at home.
mm,
You have to want to work inside the home and give up your job, which of course,
yeah,
that construct in and of itself, reifies this kind of idea that like the right way to mother is
right,
the way that a white woman with tremendous amount of economic privilege, right, would
right.
mother, and the rest of us are kind of doing it wrong. So I'm just proud of the compassionate kid he is.
Mm,
I'm really proud of the way that he thinks about the world and takes care of other people's hearts. I'm really proud of the way that me and his dad and his stepmom have talked to him about race in the midst of
mm,
everything that's happening in the US around Black Lives Matter. I think I've just in the past week had a couple of demonstrations from him of the ways that he is willing to get in and be, an active participant in helping a conflict de-escalate when something is happening. There were a
mm,
couple of different incidents with children on the playground that he stood up for people, and
mm,
those that wasn't accidental behavior. Those were behaviors that he was taught.
yeah,
And I'm really proud because I think I have a kid that is empathetic and smart, and makes bad choices all the fucking time, but
mm, mm, mm,
because he's a kid. But he's just smart and funny. And I think me and his dad and his stepmom do a really, really good job of co-parenting more often
yeah.
than not. I'm very
That's
proud
nice.
of that.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. And what's the best advice you were given?
Best advice by my first coach. And she said just imperfect action,
Mm,
massive imperfect action.
yeah,
Do it messy, but massive imperfect action. And
yeah,
um, I'm very close to crossing the $250,000 mark in my business since the start of it. And which I launched in the pandemic.
mm,
Um, and I'm not the coach making the most money. Um, but that's a significant chunk of change, and
mm,
I'm really proud. Not, oh, I'm so proud I've made a shit ton of money. I am proud of that,
mm,
but I'm really proud of the impact that I've been able to have in people's lives.
yeah,
um and I don't think I would have had that impact had I been waiting to quote unquote get it right.
right, exactly. Yeah, as I always say, imperfect action is a lot better than no action at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And my final question is always, when are you at your happiest?
When I'm on the water. When
Mm,
I'm on the water. Yeah, my son and I lived on I bought a small yacht at the
mm,
beginning of the pandemic, and we lived on it full time up until last November when I sold it and eventually decided to get a house. So
yeah.
um we live in a neighborhood on right on the outskirts, I don't know, 7-minute walk to the
Mm,
Chesapeake Bay waterfront community,
uh,
and on the same island where we had the boat docked. So it was very
yeah,
special here.
you're still drawn by the water.
100%.
Mm, yeah. Thank you so much, Liz. It was such a joy talking to you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.